All right, Ryan, I've got a big question for you, okay? You ready for this one? Is Georgia's defense elite? Let me hear it.
No, it's not an elite defense. It's not an elite defense. I don't think, letting Vanderbilt score 20 points is elite. I don't think UAB scoring 21 points, 14 against the first team defense, I don't think that's an elite performance. I don't think that I think they have elite moments. I think that they have moments and drives where it's like, wow, like that's what this Georgia defense looks like. But no, we're 2 years removed from 2021. This is not an elite defense. It's a really good defense with a lot of really good players, but they've yet to have a truly elite performance this year. I don't care about the cupcake games.
They don't matter.
Looking at the SEC games, they haven't been an elite defense.
I think they played elite against Kentucky, and I get if other people don't, want to say that, but I think we need to define the term elite, because I agree with you. They're not as good as they were last year, and they're not as good as they were in 2021. But I guess if we're talking about, are they a top 5 defense in college football? I think they're top 10. I think they're right around that top 5 in college football. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers because obviously games are still being played.
So the numbers, I did a lot of number looking this week, and the numbers would suggest they're not a top 5.
Okay. What do you remember from those numbers?
And rushing defense-wise, at one point they were in the 30s on rushing defense.
See, it feels like they are an elite run-stopping team. They are between the tackles, for sure.
The Auburn game was an outlier. As far as their run defense. But the secondary gets beat a little bit more than you like. Like today, for example, you can't really blame Malachi Starks for that one big-time play that was against him. He's draped on that guy. But they're not shutting people down in the red zone the way they used to. Where you get down there, you're not scoring against Georgia. They have some holes there. I think Vanderbilt's the most fresh off our mind. It feels like there's drives where the defensive line plays really well, and then there's just drives where there's just wide open holes and people are going by. Inconsistent, in my opinion.
So this is year 8 under Kirby, right? These are all his guys and have been for a while. You're elite in 2021, one of the best of all time. 2022, very, very good. You could call them elite as well. Why did they take a step back? Is it because there's no Jalen Carter, Nakobe Dean type? There's no Butkus Award winner at linebacker? Or they don't have a dog on the defensive line? Or is it talent? Is it coaching? A little bit of both. Why did they take a step back this year?
I mean, the guys that they've lost on defense to the draft over the last 2 years are legit NFL football players. And I just don't feel like they have as many on this team right now. Jalen Carter is Jalen Carter. Right?
An alpha. They don't have an alpha.
They do not have an alpha. It feels like at linebacker that Jamon Dumas-Johnson has games like that where he has like a Nakobe Dean or a Roquan. That's a stretch. But he has games like that where it's like, this guy really is an alpha linebacker. But then there's games where the linebacker room, you don't see that.
He's more of a Monty Rice type to me. Good player, could probably play at the NFL, but you're not Quay Walker and you're not Nakobe Dean and you're not Roquan Smith. I mean, that's just what it is. Small Munden has been playing very well, and I still think Malachi Starks is probably their most talented, best defender overall. Although Tyke Smith
has made a ton of plays this year.
He's been very, very good this year. His 4th interception today. I think he had 5 more tackles. He is a football magnet. So is Javon Bullard. So is Malachi Starks. So when and Kamari Lassiter knows how to hit. He's more of a physical cornerback than a lockdown cover corner guy. But when something happens in the secondary, and they only gave up like 200 yards in the air, but there were explosive plays.
No, but 2 passing touchdowns.
Right, exactly. So it kind of makes you wonder, okay, they have a lot returning. Javon Bullard's a playmaking machine. Malachi Starks is going to probably be a top 10 pick. Returning cornerback Kamari Lassiter. Tyke Smith is a veteran with a lot of experience. What's going on? Is there just... And the long touchdown was miscommunication. I think they were in zone. Kamari didn't go with him. He thought he was handing him off to the safety who was doing something else. The guy was way too wide open. It's not like he broke someone's ankles and got that separation on his own.
It's plays that you see where Brock Bowers is in the middle of the zone seam and it's just wide open. Good play by Vanderbilt, bad play by Georgia's defense on that long touchdown. Right there at the jump. They don't have a game record on the line. Like these guys, they're good defensive linemen. They are.
A lot of people are going to yell in the comment section about Michael Williams, and I get that. You got to do a little bit more. He's got to produce a little bit more. And is he banged up? It's not like he's out there all the time. And they sub a lot of guys on the defensive line.
They love to sub, man. I mean, there's a lot of rotations, and they have their third down packages.
Yeah.
You almost exclusively see Jalen Walker on third down.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of talent with that guy, but I think they feel like maybe there's just not a lot of separation between certain players, and they feel that they all kind of deserve to be out there on the field. You see Julian Humphrey rotating early, like the second drive.
With Dalen Everett?
Yeah.
They're very talented. I mean, that's all Kirby does is sign a top 3 recruiting class every year. So it's not like they're void of any talent. I just think there's no true alpha on the defensive line. Michael Williams could be, but it's a lot of good players, a lot of Kristen Millers. I don't think we saw Warren Brinson today, but Jamal Walthour was out there, Zion Logue was out there. It's a lot of good, but maybe not great players, not elite players. Malachi Starks is elite. Small Munden at times can be elite. Javon Bullard at times can be elite when he's at his best.
The same goes for Tyke Smith.
I think you could put him in that category.
I don't know that it's a little bit harder to say this just because we don't get to be in the locker room. We're not
all the time.
Get to see practice and stuff like that all the time. I don't know that there's an enforcer on defense, and not just physically and out there, but mentally, verbally. They had that with Nolan Smith. Yeah. They had that with Nakobe Dean. Those guys were straight up enforcers. They were alpha male type of people, and Nolan Smith was not this butt kiss type of player. That's not even his position. But Nolan Smith, did he live up to the #1 player in the country billing as a prospect? Not really, but he had a great career at Georgia, and he mattered a lot because of the leadership. And he was obviously a really good player too, but he wasn't quite that.
He didn't light up the sack stat
but
sheet.
He was an enforcer.
It
feels like they don't have as many personalities as they used to.
Yeah. And they still need guys to grow up and step up. Marvin Jones Jr. had a nice first drive. I said, okay, here we go, former 5-star, starting to kind of turn into the player we thought he could be. And then I didn't see him rest of the game.
No, because he's not in the backfield at all the rest of the game. I was keyed in on him a little bit at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know that we saw Darius Smith today.
I don't think he made the trip.
He didn't make the trip?
I don't think he made the trip.
Okay.
And I'd have to go back and look at the stat sheet. There were a couple tackles for loss. It just seems like that havoc rate is not there, right? And the plays in the backfield just aren't there as much as they were the past 2 years. And maybe we shouldn't compare them to last year's defense and 2 years ago, but it happened, right? And we're going to, because that is an elite. That they did it. That's their standard. We didn't put that standard on them.
And if they're going to keep talking about the standard and talking about it every week, about how
no one in our end zone. No one in our end zone. They got in the end zone 3 times today.
Zion Logue is a frequent person we get for media. He's always talking about how they're not living up to the standard. That's not our standard. Well, at some point, are you guys going to hit that or are you not?
They need to hit and play to their standard when Ole Miss comes to town, when Missouri comes to town, and then up in Knoxville. If Joe Milton can get it together, he kind of stinks right now. That guy stinks right now. Brady Cook does not stink. He's played very well, and he's got weapons all over the place. Theo Wees, Luther Burton. Georgia secondary is going to have their hands full there. They better be ready, and they're going to have to get pressure. They need to play the best game they played all year when Missouri comes to town, and that's after Florida.
So you got that one marked as the toughest one the rest of the year?
The toughest kind of quarterback and possibly the offense overall. I think they got a lot of weapons, but I think the Florida game could be, they need a statement performance from the defense against the Gators. There's no reason why they can't come out and shut down Graham Mertz and his one receiving weapon and the one good, not great running back that they have.
Yeah, no, so Brady Cook, I mean, what else is left? Brady Cook, if we're talking about in terms of quarterback, Graham Mertz.
Jackson Dart.
Brady Cook, Jackson Dart.
Joe Milton, Hayes King.
And Hayes King. So those guys can make plays.
I don't like saying his name. Haynes King.
Haynes King.
I don't like saying that name. Haynes is not a first
He's
name.
got a wacky release of the football. I don't know how we ended up talking about Haynes King on this, but they don't suffocate people the way they used to. They're not suffocating these teams. I mean, I agree with you that was, if it wasn't elite, then it was close to it against Kentucky, because they took away what Kentucky does well, which is on the ball,
Power
which
run.
is give the ball to Ray Davis and let him do his thing. They took that away, and they showed that if Kentucky doesn't have that, they're not going to put up points, because Devin Leary can't handle that on his shoulders when that talented of a defense is playing. And it's, I was talking to someone today who's just kind of disappointed in what they saw, and
Because it wasn't perfect.
because it wasn't perfect, and it hasn't been perfect all year.
Right.
And at a certain point, us, whoever, the fans, everybody needs to accept that that's just what it's going to be this year. They're not as elite as they were before. It does not mean they cannot win a national championship. They definitely can.
I agree with you. Before we go, I think they're elite at stopping the run and between the tackles. So there are parts of the defense that's elite, but I think we both agree they've got to play better, and they're going to need their best performance when Ole Miss and Missouri come to town. It would like to see it against Florida, though, correct?
Yeah, no, you want to see them go down there and handle that against Jacksonville. You don't want to get 2 weeks in a row, or I know, well, there's a bye, but 2 weeks in a row of looking sloppy again. I thought that last year against Florida, they went down there and had a harder time than I thought they would, but they kind of ran all over the Gators last year. Florida's, look, they're not that good. That is not a good football team, right? I don't want to say it's a bad one, because I don't. It's
No,
not.
you can.
They're not terrible.
I'll
I don't
say it.
think that they're terrible.
I think
There's
they
some terrible
stink.
teams out there. Okay.
I think
Okay.
stink is better than terrible, I think. You stink, but you can smell better. I think they have the potential.
They could put a little deodorant on. It'd be fine.
They could put a little deodorant on. Right now they stink. I don't know if they're losing to South Carolina still or not. That would be a nice win.
It'd be a good win for them. I think South Carolina's a better football team than they are. But
Enough about all that. Thanks for watching. Sign up to our free newsletter. That link is down below. If you're a 5-star Georgia fan, that's what you're going to do. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you over on Dog Post.